Hello everyone. Today we are just going to see the most important concept of data integrity, which is known as a data validation. So now let's understand the concept of data validation. So data validation basically we use when we are taking the input from the user or any user is entering the data into your database file. So how you will validate whether that data is filled correctly or that data is filled incorrectly. So if you have not put any kind of a validation and user is completely free to enter any kind of a data into your database file, so there is no data integrity is involved. So in that case, that data is no use to prepare any kind of a report because that data is not taking any kind of a data integrity on which you can rely or on which you can show that data is filled correctly or not. Let's take an example. Now, if you have few names over here, and now you have just created any database file. For an example, if this is the attendance sheet or attendance template, you can say. Now, in this template, user is completely free to enter the attendance. For an example, if the first person is entering the present as a P keyword and absent as a keyword, and the same thing by the second user or the another user, the present is considering by entire present keyword and absent is mentioning as absent keyword. The third person can use the different keyword for the present and absent. So in this case, at the last, if you have to calculate that how many days a person or the employee is present or the absent. So here you cannot put any kind of a formula for making a such kind of a dynamic that if you drag this formula towards the downside, then for each and every employee, the present and absent should be calculated. The reason is because the first person is considering the present as a P. Second person is considering the present as the entire present keyword. And the third person is considering this present as a PR keyword. So when you will count the number of days for the present, so in your formula for your first employee, your criteria will be P. Same for the second employee, your criteria will be entire present keyword. And for the third one or for the third employee, the criteria will be PR. So it means for each and every employee in your function, you have to enter the criteria manually. So in this, there is no such kind of a data integrity is involved. So I just want to create some kind of a data integrity concept. So user will not be completely free to enter any kind of a data. The data which is entering by the user, I'm just gonna validate that. So if on the basis of my condition or the criteria, if user is entering the data, then it will allow to enter the data, else user will not be able to enter the data. So now let's see how we are just going to solve this problem. So here, first of all, we have to create a column. So for an example, we have the name. I'm just gonna take the name over here. And now I'm just gonna create a template for the attendance. So for an example, I'm just creating the attendance for this month. Now, I just need to add one day over here. I'm just creating a simple template over here. So for an example, I have just taken these 8 days over here. You can take for the complete month. Now, you can write your leave policy in any of the sheet. So for an example, if we have the leave policy, for an example, the present, absent, and casual. So here in this range, in this grade, we have to create these lists as a drop down. So user will not be able to enter the data manually. User has to select the leave policy from the drop down. So first of all, you have to select this entire grid where you want to create the drop down list. Then go into this data ribbon, and here you can see this data validation. So click on this data validation and you will get this data validation pop-up or the wizard. From here, you have to create the list, and in this source, you have to select this range which you want to display into your drop-down list. Now simply click on OK. And if you observe carefully in this grid area, if I'm clicking on any of the cell, I'm able to see the one drop-down list. So if you click on this drop-down list, you will be able to see these 3 leave policies. So user can select any of the leave policy from here. But if user will try to enter manually, user will not be able to do that. Here, if you observe, if I'm writing the present keyword, which is not listed in my dropdown, if I have written this forcefully and once you will just press the enter keyword, so it will throw an error. So here, if you observe, it is throwing an error. And in this error, this Microsoft Excel keyword, this Microsoft Excel, which is coming over here, it is nothing but the error title. And this cross is basically the stop symbol. And here, this value doesn't match the data validation restrictions defined for this cell. This is your error message. This is the default message. In this place, you can mention your message itself. So for an example, if I just want to convey the message to the user that please select the leave policy from the dropdown. So simply just select this area in which you have implemented the data validation. And same, you can go into this data validation and here you can see the error alert. So go into this error alert and here we have selected this stop as a style. And here in this title, we can mention any title over here. Like the default title was Microsoft Excel, I can mention as July attendance. And now in this error message, I can convey the message to the user which I want to show. So I can mention as please select the leave policy from the list. And now simply click on OK. So now if you user will try to enter any value which is not listed in my dropdown, and once user will press the enter, user will be able to see the message which I have written into the prompt. So now if you observe, so this is something you have achieved by this data validation, and now every user will select the same leave policy for the present as a P, for the absent as a, and for the casual leave as a CL. So now in the last, you can put the formula for the present, you can put the formula for the absent, and you can put the formula for the casual. So for an example, if I say this is for the present, this is for the absent, and this is for the casual leave. So here I can put the county formula. So this county function I have already demonstrated and clear in my previous session. So you can go into my playlist and you can watch this video. So here in this range, I have taken this range, and now here I'm just gonna put my criteria as P in double quotes. If I press the enter, so here if you observe, so this person has not entered any leave policy as a present. So if the person will select as a P over here, if you observe, the number is getting changed. If you drag this formula, so now if you observe here, if you observe here, so now you can see what we have to do is here the freezing concept. So here we have to increase the row, so you can remove this dollar sign. If I drag this formula, so if you observe here the present number of days you are able to see. And same for the absent, we can calculate the absent days. So only we have to change the criteria from P to A. So the same formula we have to implement, and now in place of the P, we have to use this A. Now if you drag this formula, so you can see the number of days as absent. If user will change here in the drop down, so on the basis of that, the output is going to get changed. And same for the casual, we have to use this CL over here. Now, if you'll drag this formula, so here you can see no one has taken as a casual leave, but if the person will select as a casual, so here you can see the numbers are getting changed. And now this county function is not a case sensitive. If in your dropdown, the CL keyword is written into uppercase, but if in your function, if you mention as a CL in your lowercase, it will also give you the same output. If you observe here in this range, CL is written into the uppercase, but in criteria, I have mentioned in the lowercase. So this county function is not the case sensitive function. So now you can see this kind of a scenario you can achieve by this data validation concept. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any query, please post into the comment box. Thank you.